Hi, everyone. Welcome today to this gathering. Today, before we would go into the process, I always preface our process or meditation transmission with a short talk. And I would like to talk about our um, AI machinery, which you would call your thoughts. It's actually as light beings, it was a superimposition. Thoughts, as such, were not present until the densification of light. And you would see in the Vedic scriptures and in all traditions, mystical traditions. So Christian, the Gnostic traditions, and also the Sufi traditions, they are all pointing you to move away from conceptualizing and thought. And of course, in India, there is a vein of yoga which is called Gyan yoga, and it is, or actually, it is a vein where you study scriptures, and then the studying of scriptures actually stops at a point, and there's a door, there's a threshold, and you need to go beyond that. And it is a tricky one. It is a tricky one because um, our identity, our ego identity, is very closely enmeshed with how we function. It is how we function. The ego identity is what is dictating our sense of reality. And a friend of mine had pointed out a book to me. It's called Lonely No More by Margaret Paul. And I would like to introduce her lens of a spiritual lens that is combining a psychotherapeutic lens to our personality and why a lot, almost humanity, all of us, are disconnected from our higher selves. And in divine cosmology, if you consider, I mean, I will introduce you to one aspect of divine cosmology, which is much beyond the Brahmalok, which is the threshold of the Trinity, the Trimurti of Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. And then their father and mother would be Lord Brahm and Durga. And then there is a much, much, much higher realm, which most traditions don't point to. But first of all, first things first, we need to address why we are constantly, repeatedly circulating in this rigid mind patterning, which is the realm of Lord Kal. Uh, and Kal, or time, it rigidifies light, it rigidifies essence. And in this realm, just remember, there's not much light. Yes, where we live. It is um, the Anda and Pinda universe, Pinda and Anda, mostly the physical and the astral. And a lot of us are suffering. And sometimes we have a repose from suffering, and then we get plunged back into suffering. And the whole purpose of, I would say, our sojourn on this planet is to liberate our souls, to truly be guided by this unfathomable purity of light that is your true abode, the abode of your soul. But for that, we also have to heal our psychology. And I'm a firm believer that what heals our psychology is our connection, first of all, to our higher self. And once you actually establish that connection, and it's not something elusive, it is that point where your guidance starts happening, and the ego identity is not running the show. And the more you purify energetically this system, the more you're refining the the body, the mind, the emotions, and so on. You're able to then reach higher and higher levels of consciousness. And unless we do that, we can go to therapy. We can, resort to some modalities of easing our pain, but essentially that's not what is going to pervade. It's not going to be strong enough for you to be situated in your light. And referring back to Margaret Paul's a book about Lonely No More, she says that from early childhood, because we are raised by unconscious parents, and in an unconscious society that is prescribing you its own ways and deeming these ways the way. And so everybody is kind of like existing or subsisting in this somnambulist haze, which means sleepwalking. Yes. And interestingly, Krakawa was a German philosopher who, after the phenomenon of German fascism, interesting that this is coming up, he wrote a book called The Mass Psychology of Fascism. And I'm just quoting fascism, but look at these tendencies within your own life. So within his book, he says that the German nation became the nation of somnambulists, sleepwalkers who just did what the Führer or the leader said. Yes. Simon says go, they went. Yes. And there is that Führer or leader within you, and it is a complete cognitive dissonance that you live in until you wake up truly. You wake up to the suffering, you wake up and you want to wake up, because some people are really comfortable where they are. They're comfortable. They they are comfortable with the material world's um, um, glitters and pleasures and whatever you call them. And the five senses are the ego, so they always move outward, and you can be eternally entertained. Yes, there's some suffering, there's some pain, and there's some pleasure, and then this is what your life is, and then you sign off. Yeah. Well, if you want that, then sign off from this channel. Like that's not why we're here. But I guess um we all have caught on to this interesting modality that nothing really changes unless you truly connect to your higher self, your higher light. So she says that as children, as a society that is prescribing you how to live, you are completely geared towards this material existence. The five senses look outwards, and she says this is what is then leading society. Every single person, I mean, look at yourself. Do you have any of these? Fear of death, lack of purpose, fear, anxiety and depression, illness, core shame, harming ourselves and others. It doesn't have to be in great ways. Lack of personal responsibility, that like humanity is truly devoid of personal responsibility, feeling victimized and powerless, blaming and controlling, dysfunctional relationships and shattered families, experiencing life as a burden instead of a sacred privilege. Yeah. And this is all coming from the fact that we are raised by a society that is not teaching you how to connect to your truth, being raised by a family that they themselves were never taught that. And I believe that these groups and the germination of alternative schooling and people truly listening to this call to unify and start noticing how to reconnect to our truth is happening at this time. Yes. And if our ego is just whirling in these false sense of impending doom, and then it has a moment of repose and it feels okay for a second, then it's good enough. Where we are actually light beings. We are very powerful beings of light who have completely forgotten. We have forgotten to use our 360 senses. We have forgotten to use our multidimensional abilities. And these are not woo-woo. This is the same thing as I can lift up an object with my hand. That's how we were using our abilities, before the fall of Lemuria and Atlantis. And those teachings have still contained a lot of essential truths in them. But even Atlantis was falling, and then the truth was watered down. And by the time I am a great reader. I'm an avid reader of the Vedas, and even the Vedas are inverted truths, unfortunately. They already are written from the point of view of control, controlling humanity. So our only task is to truly purify our self and slowly have this ability to loosen the grip over our ego identities. And this, I cannot say that a lot of scriptures would demonize the ego and say it as the ultimate impediment, which in a way it is. But we cannot deal with the ego self, the personality structure, in a violent way. Because if we do, it's just going to rebel. And it is very tricky. It actually knows how to act and feign things so that you think it's doing what you want, and it's the opposite what is being done. So we have to be very careful. And the only thing in my experience that can neutralize the ego or slowly merge it with your higher self is your ability to contain more and more light, more and more of your own truth. So all of these kriyas, actually a transmission that we do here is a kriya. It's a sacred action that slowly starts merging your light into this body vessel so that you contain more and more of your light, more and more of your essence. And then all you're noticing is that in your day-to-day life, you have more discernment, you have higher ability, your nervous system is actually equipped to handle life in a more holistic manner. Holistic means that you deal with what's in front of you in a more productive way. For example, around 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever I would be struck by a great problem in my life, and I think everybody has those things, problems in their lives, I would just freeze down and not move. It could be even for months at a time, where my nervous system was unable to deal with any more stress or impediment. So our work is very essential, and it's invisibly opening you to this greater, vaster openness of light. And you're noticing that, oh, I'm not that involved anymore into the drama, into the whirlwind of life. Yes, the whirlwind is happening, and I am doing my best. I am serving in the best way I can, but I'm not drawn in so essentially. And that is so important. Buddhism, of course, teaches equanimity, and equanimity never means that you don't care. What I would call equanimity is that you have embodied the purity of God's light, and you're acting from thy will. And that thy will gives you so much power and strength to act from this purity, equanimity, but still serve to your highest ability. It doesn't mean you don't care. You care greatly, but you don't get swayed. My Vedanta teacher from Hungary, he always said, oh, how can you judge whether your spiritual progress is happening? He says, look at your life as a test. Look how you are dealing with your life on a moment-to-moment basis, and that's how you can tell. And if you have more ability, more patience, more openness, more vibrancy, vitality, then you're doing something good, well, on your pathless path. And I'm just going to end by this beautiful prayer that she said here, Margaret Paul. It sounds like, I think, St. Paul the Assisi's prayer. But she says here, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So beautiful. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, we can start the process. You can sit up straight or lie down. And we can allow these words to settle because the words are never the truth. They're just pointing to something that then carries you on its own. And whether they resonate, if they resonate, then they do carry you. And if they don't resonate, you just drop them. And we're calling our souls back into the vessel to deeply integrate with this vessel because we light up our spines, and the light of our spines is like a magnetic rod, electromagnetic rod that can allow the soul to descend even further, illuminating your body, illuminating this vessel. And in this co-joined holographic space, we've come here to walk each other home. We call in our higher selves. I am presence, the Christed, Buddhic consciousness. We connect to the Guru Tattva, the realm of the teachers. We connect to Satlok, the first divine realm of pure light, the abode of the soul. And only the highest truth, wisdom, power, and the will of one can come through in this co-joined field in the form of healing, in the form of guidance, in the form of wholeness, embodiment of wholeness. As the guiding light is rewiring our nervous systems, reprogramming ourselves. If everything is energy, consider if everything is energy, even when you're looking at my body or my face on the screen, you see this image of a seemingly physical appearance, but everything is just densified light. And all we are doing is walking up on the ladder towards purer and purer, faster and faster frequencies of sound and light current. Emanations. We connect to Kabir, Sant Kabir, the guide, the one incarnated guide, who had taught souls how to walk towards their liberation on this pathless path of the eternal light and sound current. It works the following way. The eternal sound and light current is a beautiful longing in your heart, as if you were adjusting, finding this trace in your divine cave in your heart. It is a trace in your heart that remembers. It is that immanent, eternal spark. Even after this body dies, that immanent, eternal spark then will go on wherever it got to, either merge with the ocean of love or meander wherever it needs to gain some more experiences. But I would like us to connect to this flame, a spark. It is that spark of the divine ocean, the ocean of love. And just notice as soon as you are connecting in this group field to this spark of eternal sound and light current, you already feel that your spine was activated, as your spine is the altar of God, and it's responding to the calling, to the longing of the lover to reunite with the beloved. And the funny part of this game is that the beloved doesn't answer that fast. And your longing, the purpose of your longing is to test your fire. The purpose of your longing, this immense longing to unite with your source. And the greater the longing, the greater the guidance of the beloved. And sometimes it's very imperceptible, but it's still there. So first, the lover is calling, 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 longing, longing, longing. And then slowly this unquenchable thirst is guiding you towards the beloved. And you recognize that, yes, you're coming closer and closer. And through the guidance, you're being taught that truth equals life, equals light. And you become more real, very real. You become a true Adam Kadmon. the awakened human who is here to carry out the will of God, because there is no difference. Once your personal will is submerged into the divine will, it takes a long, long polishing. It takes some time to let go of your rigid, self protective tendencies. But your longing helps you. Ultimately, every single desire you have is just one desire. Depending on your level of consciousness, but ultimately it's the same desire. Whether you're desiring wealth or romantic love or fame, control, power, it is all a desire to merge and be one with God. Maybe pray every single day to clearly hear the guidance of our higher self, to clearly hear the guidance of the divine sound and light current. And this is heard once you start immersing yourself into the silence of your divine cave in the heart. Because in this silence, you get to recognize your true nature. These words that are guided by the divine light and sound current are guiding you to the epicenter of the heart. We're not referring to the physical heart, the back side of your body, the spine level heart. As a fractal of divinity, you start aligning with this upward moving current. Which then starts refining your senses. So that you can attune the truth of your being. And nobody can verbalize, no teacher can verbalize and teach you through words. What your true being is. A teacher can only embody and then teach you through being. And you become attuned, like a tuning fork. To the divine sound and light current as it goes through different frequencies and stages of emanation. And it starts healing the distortions in your physical body, mental, emotional body, astral body, causal body, and so on. And notice how comfortable are you with the silence? Because know that in this silence that is in between the words, the silence is holding the field of words. So, how comfortable are you with this silence? Because the silence is drawing you into emptiness, emptying out. Because the true self is not a content. And that's scary for the ego. And in this silence, silence is also heard behind the words as they appear, the words appear from silence. Just like your body appears from nothingness. This is your ability to recharge, rehabilitate, and heal. It's so powerful. You can intend to connect your heart with the divine light and sound current, but we're all connected right now, very deeply. And whenever you feel you are in distress, just step back into this divine cave of your heart. Step, and you attune to this divine light and sound current. And I'm just going to do a reminder. Just feel there is a very strong heart field, unified chakra heart field. And just feel how your chakra, the heart chakra, which is the most mystical abode of your being, is being drawn upward to the pure light and sound field of Satpurus. It's cleansing your throat, your heart, and your third eye, and your crown. And you feel this upward moving power of the divine light and sound current. And we're going to infuse this current with the recognition of a particular frequency. You can just hear it or repeat it silently. These bija or seed sounds are like tuning forks, and they attune your body, mind, emotional body, astral body, etheric body, towards these eternal sound and light currents, current fields of light. And the frequency is Ram, Ram, Satanam. Ram, Ram, Sat, Nam. Satlok is the Satnam, the pure name, the pure light and sound current of the whirlpool of creation. Ram Ram Satnam. And we can right now, it's very powerful, program the field to attune all of our cells to this frequency of the pure light and sound fields, so that everything that is not congruent with it falls away. Ram Ram Satnam. It's like you're being a tuning fork. Your body is a power object. Your body is a power object that is attuning to the whirlpool of source, pure light. And everything is being drawn up into the light. All of the rigid fixations, false encoding, purify your heart. So that you can become the beacon of light on this planet. That is the purpose of you being here. A tuning fork. Ram Ram Satnam. And do not be afraid of sorrow or suffering, because it is polishing you, attuning you. This immense loneliness that you might be feeling is just another version of the longing for the beloved, for the union, eternal union, because you remember it. Let your longing guide you. Let the purity of your longing guide you. Loneliness is a very, very positive indication that you're being called. It is this divine sound and light current that has the power to remove the egregores that you've created through your mind, thought patterns. It has the power to remove any and all entities, energies, attaching spirits, and loosens the grip of your identity, your ego identity, so that it finally finds its home and it stops and it starts healing. Stops chasing its own tail. So it is. Maybe be clearly guided on this path, path of soul liberation. Sat Nam.